aims and the oral. Okay, so we can have that, and then we can be able to come up with a lot of issues. So we have aims and goals. Why would we do this? And remember, as even we look at the goals of psychology, remember psychology plays a very big role in the classroom. And it has a lot, the principles of psychology can be applied in the classroom to help us make our classrooms better. So we should be thinking about how can we apply psychological principles into education to make education better. In other words, to make the students even better, to make the classrooms better, to make a school a livable environment, an environment in which a student feels accepted and it feels a valuable member of it. So the aims of psychology, you see, psychology is interested in the search for understanding how human beings behave. How do they behave? How do they think? How do they feel? And how do they adjust to society? And then automatically and solve their problems. How do we solve their problems? That's what psychology is interested in. How does this person think? How does this person feel? And then how does this person adjust to society? Is this person able to adjust? And then how does this person solve a problem? And so on. So these goals can be summarized as to measure and describe behavior, to understand and explain or control behavior, and then predict and control behavior, and then finally to improve behavior. Briefly, I put here a few hints that we shall be looking at under each of those goals. Measurement and description of behavior, because we are saying to measure and describe behavior. So it means to understand any phenomenal event, we should be able to measure and describe it. Are you able to measure this event? And then can you be able to describe this event? When you do that, usually psychologists can measure and describe behavior such as anxiety, attitude, intelligence, etc. If you read, you can read more about it. You will see the instruments that the psychologists use to measure someone's anxiety level, the attitude of someone towards something, or even attitude towards a certain subject, the intelligence of somebody, for example, using intelligence tests and so on and so forth. So the instruments or tools used should be reliable and valid. Remember, when we talk about validity, we are meaning that that instrument can give or measure characteristics that it is meant to measure. Is it able to measure those characteristics that it is meant to measure? And then when we are talking about reliability of an instrument, we are saying that it gives consistent results, meaning that even if you changed to a different category of the category of characteristics you are studying, it should be able to give you the same results without changing. Then you can know that this is a reliable instrument. So instruments can be reliable yet not valid. For example, if you have a tape measure measuring intelligence. Now a tape measure is meant to take, maybe let's say you go to a tailor and the tailor wants to use that tape measure to take your measurements. That one, it is a reliable instrument. But supposing you wanted to use that instrument to measure the intelligence of somebody, it becomes invalid. So it cannot be valid. You can have an instrument being reliable, but not valid. And so a valid instrument will automatically be what? Reliable. But a reliable instrument may not be valid. Then understanding and the explanation of behaviors, the second goal. And this is the most important goal of psychology. So it helps in identifying the causes for why certain behaviors and mental processes occur. Why do these behaviors occur this way? Why do these mental processes go through this? So we need to understand, and then you explain that. This is made possible through the use of theories. There are several theories. We shall look at them as we go on. Now, remember, a theory is an attempted explanation that makes sense out of large observations. That's what a theory is. So we have got those explanations that make sense out of so much large or big observations, if you like them. So a good theory will help in making reasonable guesses, what we call the hypothesis. That one will be a good theory. If it is not a good theory, it won't help us in making those reasonable guesses. So the guess you make, the hypothesis you make should be reasonable if that theory can be able to make it. And then a hypothesis, of course, we are talking about a tentative or a testable or a verifiable explanation of the relationship between the cause and the consequences. So once we have that, we can be able to understand and explain different behaviors. And then the other one is prediction and control of behavior. So to be able to predict and control behavior, we rely on the past or present information about behavior. So there is the past information that we have about that behavior, but we also have the past, the present information. So we rely on that, and we can be able to predict what the behavior will be, the outcome of it, and then we can be able to control. Once we predict, we can be able in position to control that particular occurrence. If it was going to be a bad behavior, then we should be able to control it, and then we can be able to achieve what we want. And then improvement of society. That's the final bit of it, I think. So a lot of information can be learned through psychology. It should be used to better educational opportunities for the citizens, usually. You don't just have to have it, but we want to make the educational opportunities of the citizens better. And it can also be used to improve the welfare of the communities, such as prevent crimes in society. Because if you understand that this person behaves this way, maybe the person's mental actions are leading towards maybe crimes, like maybe, let's say, maybe defilement, maybe theft, maybe robbery, maybe there are tendencies that you can see. But through psychology, we can be able to predict these behaviors, and then we find a way of how we can control these rates of crime in society. Also to comfort those afflicted by diseases and viruses like COVID-19, like HIV, those affected by modern slavery, and so on. In fact, so many problems taking place in the community can be controlled if we have the knowledge of psychology. So the psychologist's intention is to make sure that the society is improved, that it is a better place for people to live in. And this also lies in us. So once we have that, we can be able to help. So we have the earliest schools of psychology, and there are 5. We have structuralism, functionalism, behaviorism, Gestalt psychology, and then what we call psychoanalytic psychology. We shall be looking at them briefly. I'm just giving briefly, but here we should be able to describe the school and establish the following in it: when and where the school was started, who established it, in other words, who was the father of that school, and then impact, the goal or focus of that study. What was the impact on the modern psychology, and what are the contributions of the school to the theory and practice of education? You should be able to look through this to be able to find out some of this when you look at this, the 5 schools that we are interested in this course unit. So you'll be able to go through those as guiding questions for you. But we'll briefly look at structuralism, and I'm saying it is the oldest of the schools developed in Germany. I hope my power gives me chance to go through. If it doesn't, all the same, we shall be able to. I'll post these slides on Moodle, and then you can go through them. They are not very difficult to understand. Just a minute. So we look at them, but in detail, we can be able to get to know exactly what these schools of thought in detail. I'm just giving a summary, what they are and what they can give us in return, how we can adapt them to help us be better teachers in our classrooms. When you look at the history of psychology, you will find that there are so many things that you can be able to get or to come up with. If you look at these schools, the way they developed, they should be in position to help us. So first of all, remember, psychology has got a lot to contribute to the theory and practice. So once we have to know those, then we can know that we can be able to integrate what we get from all these schools of psychology. So here we have structuralism, and I said it is the oldest. It was propagated by a philosopher and a psychologist called Wilhelm Wundt in 1879 in the University of Leipzig. This man was interested in identifying the elements of human consciousness and automatically the mental processes and how these elements interact to form thoughts and feelings. You can imagine that was his interest, looking at the human consciousness, how conscious you are. So he was identifying those elements and then looking at the mental processes. Remember, the mental processes of a person will always come out in form of feelings and maybe in form of thoughts, but this project out. Remember, this is covert, but they project out into a behavior that can be seen and measurable. So for him, he was interested in the elements of consciousness and those mental processes, and he wanted to see how these elements interact to form thoughts and feelings in somebody. So the focus was on the structure of the mind. That is to say, in order to understand human behavior, their minds must be studied through introspection. So for him, he advocated for introspection, that you can use this method and be able to achieve and attain a higher level of understanding through introspection. You can understand someone's mind, you can understand someone's mental behavior, which is not seen. What do we mean by covert behavior? So the method is used usually by lawyers, doctors, intelligence officers, and so on. So these people can play around, even a lawyer can play around with your mind because they want to understand deeply your behavior through the mind, but they use this, what we call introspection, to be able to get to know how you feel, how you are thinking. And then with the functionalism, it emerged as a reaction to structuralism. You will read in detail about it. I will even post in some information on Moodle so you can read more detail about it, because each of these has got a relevance. That's why I gave you the first questions up there. You'll go through this and you'll be able to answer those questions for yourself. How applicable? In other words, what is the applicability for you as a teacher? How can you use structuralism or functionalism to help you in your day-to-day practice as a teacher? So this one emerged from USA, led by William James and John Dewey. It was interested in how the mind functions and therefore concerned with people, how people behave the way they do or reason. They want to know why people behave. It was concerned with why people behave the way they do or the way they reason. So he wanted, remember, he's also looking at how the mind is functioning. The other one is looking at the elements of it, but this one says, how does the mind function really of a person? That was his interest. And of course, if it was looking at the function, how it functions, he was looking at it how with why people behave the way they do. Why does so and so behave this way? Or why does a person reason this way? That was his aim. So they also stressed that the human mind is highly personal and unique. That means that one can never behave the very way the other behaves. I cannot behave the way you behave, neither can you behave the way I behave. And that is what William and John Dewey were looking at. And then, of course, they also had that the human mind is a cumulative process which can be modified by a new experience. That means controlled by environment. In other words, they thought that the human mind can be corrupted by the environment. I just want to use the word corrupted, because corrupted may be positive or negative. So in other words, you are a person has the mind is good when you are born. It's like it is empty, but the new experiences modify it, change it from what you were originally to what the environment is. That's why I think when you are born in a place, maybe you live in a place where there is, let's say, a slum, the behavior, the mind of that person is full of those experiences from such an environment. But should this person be removed from that environment and be taken into another environment, a different environment, maybe a positive environment, this environment should be able to change, because we are saying it is a cumulative process which can be modified. So you can easily modify the mind by taking somebody out of that experience into a different experience. So you can change someone from good to bad, and even from bad to good. That is possible. From good to bad, and even from bad to good. You can do that. It can be done. So human experience, in other words, is a continuous thing. It will keep changing according to where you continuously live. Whether you are young or old, when you grow, those experiences, other experiences also come in, and you can be modified by those new experiences. You can change. So also conscious oral behavior is selected. That's to say there is always a reason that pushes us to behave or make decisions. There's a reason for you to behave the way you behave. There's a reason for you to make a certain decision. So therefore, psychology should be interested in investigating the purpose and functions of behavior. What is the purpose of that behavior? What is the function of that particular behavior? That is what psychology should be interested in investigating. And then behaviorism emerged in USA in 1913 and was led by Pavlov, Watson, and Skinner. It was a reaction to both structuralism and functionalism. Now, the focus was on observable behavior. Remember, the other people are looking at covert behavior. These people say no, because you cannot read their mind. Their focus was on behavior that can be observed, that can be observable, that you can see. It emphasized that human beings manifest the following characteristics. One, born empty mind. In other words, you are born tabula rasa. It emphasizes that a human being is born with an empty mind, completely empty. Now, the behavior, most of the behavior we have, we just learn it from the environment. We are saying most learned behavior is acquired from the environment. So most of the behavior that we have, we learned it, but we acquired it from the environment. That's what these ones say. But remember, you are born empty, tabula rasa. Your mind is blank. Most behavior tends to be pervasive. That is, we tend to behave in a certain pattern. And I think they could have been right in a certain way. We tend to behave in a certain pattern. But remember, we are saying this pattern is drawn up from the environment in which somebody has been reared or in which we have grown. Human beings are reactive to the environment, but also they are passive and deterministic. So all these characteristics are brought up by what we call, is what John Dewey and this other gentleman, Pavlov, Watson, and Skinner are talking about. Then we have what we call the Gestalt psychology. Gestalt started as a reaction to structuralism by fellow Germans. It comes from a German word, Gestalte, which means a whole unit, totality, a pattern, form, or a configuration, a whole unit, if you like it. And remember, these schools have got their advantages and disadvantages. They have got their implications for a teacher. That what should you do as a teacher? So the founders of that Gestalt psychology was Max Wertheimer and Kurt. So you see Kolfger and Wolfgang Kolher at the University of what this is supposed not to be here. This is supposed to be a continuation of Kurt Kolfger and Wolfgang Kohler at the University of Frankfurt. They say that the whole is better than its parts, because remember, Gestalt psychology is looking at the totality, is looking at the behavior as a whole. So for them, they are saying that the whole is better than its parts. Now, if you are studying behavior according to Gestalt psychologists, you must study it as a whole. You cannot study it in parts. If you study it in parts, then you will not get to know the exact behavior. That is the idea behind it. And then the psychoanalytic, I'm trying to rush because my power is almost getting off. So the psychoanalytic school was developed in 1895 by a medical doctor named Sigmund Freud in Vienna, in Australia. So it is stressed in a branch of medicine called neurology, meaning the study of the nerves. That's where it is stressed. It started from there. Remember, this was a doctor. And we were looking at it in terms, he traced it in terms of what we call neurology, the study of the nerves, and which nerves were connecting to issues to do with the brain, the consciousness of the person. So this Sigmund Freud specialized in the disorders that some of his patients had, though not sick, but with symptoms of physical illnesses, such as headache, exhaustion, insomnia. Because you can lack sleep, but you are not physically, you are not really sick. But physically, you have some illnesses. You have a headache, but you are not sick. You feel tired, but you are not sick. So he suggested that mental conflicts were behind these symptoms. That a mental problem, you can have a conflict in your mental faculty, and it can cause you a headache, or it can cause you to lack sleep, or possibly it can cause you feel tired. So this where it is talking, is saying these conflicts were behind this kind of things. And so human behavior is also as a result of thoughts, fears, and wishes hidden in the unconscious mind. So he had the unconscious mind, he has the conscious mind, and then there's the subconscious mind. So he says those are those other things hidden there, those thoughts, the fears and wishes are the ones which are a result of what we call human behavior. So these things are hidden in our unconscious mind, and they tend to make us behave the way we behave. So people often are not aware of the conflicting forces that have a strong effect on their behavior. We're just there, but we don't know what is forcing me to behave this way. We are not aware of it. He suggested that these mental conflicts may result from our experience during infancy and childhood, meaning what happens to us at as an infant or as at infancy will have an effect to us even when we are adults, even when we grow old. It will continue influencing who we are. We will look at it in detail when we come to look at those psychoanalysis as a kind of a theory for personality development. We shall be looking at it in detail, and very interesting things. And some of us maybe behave the way we behave because of what happened at infancy and adulthood, and childhood. Because remember, issues beginning from where we begin from toilet training, or even possibly when we are still suckling, we want to put everything in the mouth, The way we are controlled determines who we shall be. And remember, these are the people you are meeting in your class. Some of them got fixated at certain stages and were not able to come out of it, and now they are in your classroom. And we should know how to handle them. And my question is here: how do you uncover or reveal the unconscious conflicts which are hidden in our minds? How can we uncover or reveal those unconscious conflicts which are hidden in our minds? Remember, they are unconscious; they are hidden somewhere. So for him, Sigmund used what we call hypnosis, which was not effective. Of course, it didn't do well for it. And then also adopted free association. That is, comfortably lie on the couch, would put them there in a doctor's room and say whatever was on their mind. So we would let them free association, and the person would just talk freely. Say whatever was in your mind, lie there and talk, and you will be able to record and get the information. My questions for discussion before I say, I don't know, I hope I've not been talking to myself before I go there. Let me first see. Members, are we still on?
We are on, sister. We are listening.
Oh my God, I talked too much, I think.
Stop because of the maybe the umeme.
Umeme is soon, my power is going off. So I just wanted to give some introductory bit of it so that we don't get off, all of us. So that is the bit that I wanted to share with you. I left that last slide there. Is there anyone who has a problem with me? Anyone whom I left behind? Maybe not. Okay. Maybe before, maybe people are thinking, or maybe nothing. I hope there's something that people have got. If not, I'm in trouble. Now I have some few questions here, and I've said these are questions for discussion. Describe the relationship between psychology and the other disciplines. Remember, psychology is also influenced by, influences, and is also influenced by other disciplines. Like we are going to be looking at the disciplines, psychology and biology, psychology and philosophy. Even sometimes you see, like even the second one says, visit Moodle and a forum and discuss the extent to which psychology draws its content from biology. So we are going to share this one. I'm going to put a forum on WhatsApp. And remember, whatever is put on, not on WhatsApp, but on Moodle, remember that whatever we put on Moodle, you must do because it carries some marks. Don't get yourself off it, but be part of it so that you are not going to be let down. Let me first stop sharing my screen as I talk. So whatever will be on Moodle, whether it is a forum, whether it is any small discussion, it carries some marks, so don't miss out anything. I will post these other slides that I have used. I will put them on WhatsApp, on Moodle. You can extract them from there if you want and look through. But I also have some notes related, some articles that I usually get, I post there. You can download them and read them. And then you can also look at how we relate, what's the relationship between this psychology with the other subjects, particularly what's the relationship with the philosophy, with the science. Why do we call it, why do we think it's a science? Look at it, biology. What does psychology draw from biology that helps to enhance it? So we'll be looking at a little bits of them, and then we can be able to share together, and so that we don't get ourselves off completely. So I think that is it for today.